Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hey there, hi there, ho there. This is RHJunior, RHJunior Reality Check, coming to you live over the internet through a series of tubes known as the boob tube we call YouTube, bringing you yet another broadcast of my particular contribution to the debris along the lines of the internet, along the sides of the International Information Superhighway. A little thing, the one and only contribution I've ever made to the internet. Technically, spleen squeezins. Dooby. What can I say? And we're experiencing buffering. No! Say it isn't so! Say it isn't so! Live stream settings generally enable live chat. It's none of these settings. Looking at all these settings, I've shared it. I've inserted stream to create highlight video. I don't know. Just is there anybody out there? I don't know. Stream latency, low latency. Is that good or bad? I don't know. I'm told so little. I'm expected to fly blind. This is the closest thing I've got to a theme song. What am I supposed to do about it? It's a theme song. Deal with it. God only knows when anybody's going. It's 10:30 at night. It's 10:20 actually. 10:20. Let's be picky. 10 whole frickin' minutes. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing about our world, is that everything has to be, down to the second, down to the wire, down to the minute, down even to the to the minute, on the minute. You have to clock in exactly the right time. You have to. When you go to work, whoever invented the minute hand on the clock, we should have rounded him up and beaten him. But it's too late now. It's too late now. We're slaves to the second hand. Seriously, slaves to the. Think about it. You clock in. You're supposed to clock in at say 9 in the morning. You clock in at 8:59. 8:59. You're golden. You clock in precisely at 9. You're golden. You clock in at 9:0001. And there will be some Poindexter pinhead to come. You've been clocking in after you clock in 2 or 3 minutes late. God help you if you clock in 10 or 15 minutes. 10 or 15 minutes. That's that's as long as it takes to take a pee. But you got some Poindexter. We say, you multiply that 5 minutes late by, umpty million employees, and that's millions of dollars. No, it's not millions of dollars lost. If you think anybody gets any work done in the first 5 minutes, or even the first half hour, you live in a world where the numbers do not match the actual reality. I mention this because my last retail job, I kept showing up late and got my butt kicked for it. But That doesn't diminish my point. In case you haven't guessed, I'm back. Yes, I'm back. I have been gone for literally a month and a half. 6 weeks. 6 weeks. First 2 weeks at the hospital. 4 weeks after that. In fact, I think maybe a little longer than 4 weeks after that. I think I was gone for 2 full months solid. I'll have to consult the calendar to find out how long I was gone. I don't keep track of time, Will, in case you haven't guessed. And I resent the implication that I have to. Just because. But I was gone for over a month and a half. Because I got a nasty infection in my leg. It's one of the consequences of having lymphedema. If you have swollen legs, you get injuries, even the slightest little pinprick of an injury. You can't even feel it. You won't even feel it, but it'll start leaking. Not bleeding, leaking. And then it will get infected. And then the infection, and it won't heal. And the skin around the wound will start getting damaged, and the wound will spread, and eventually it'll get infected, and you end up in the hospital. It is a constant battle, 24/7, 7 days a week, just to monitor my own legs to make sure that I haven't got a cut or a bruise or something on them that is going to fester. I had spent a month trying to get a single wound on a couple of wounds on my legs to heal up, and one of my legs got infected, and I had to call the emergency room. I had to call the ambulance, 911, and get hauled to the hospital because all of a sudden, the infection reached a point where suddenly it started hurting so bad, it left me crying. I'm not kidding you. And they took me to the hospital, and they poured literal pints of antibiotics into me through IVs. They had to open up one of those fancy IVs that goes directly into like a vein or an artery or something in my arm. Special procedure just so that they could keep pouring it in. And I was there 2 weeks, and then after that they moved me over to hospice care. Actually, not hospice care. It's a therapy center. It's called the Arbors. Back again. Second time I visited there. Actually, the third, come to think of it. I've been there 3 different times. And this time I ended up staying over a month. Because it took that long for the wounds to completely heal up. And, my leg to completely stop hurting. Even after the wounds on the outside, the damage done to my leg was still on the inside hurting in pain. Let's put it. Have you ever been injured in a way that morphine would not touch? I mean, they gave me morphine, all the same, but they also gave me gabapentin and a couple other things, all sorts of fancy nerve blockers and crap, and and it was a cocktail of medicine that it took just to blunt the pain. That first week was fun. And I lost for a stretch there. My weight dropped. Just lying in bed, and all that fluid, it flowed out of my legs and up into my body, and I peed it out. And I got down. I was up to 470 pounds when I went in. I got down to 398. That tells you how much I just peed off. And then my legs are I can't lay in bed all the time, even in a care center. So the last week I started getting up, sitting up on my bed, and my legs have started puffing up again. But I can actually measure. It takes me about 8 hours of rest, lying on my back with my feet propped up, and my feet start deflating again. I had reached a point, my feet looked normal. It looked like I had normal feet, a little wrinkly, in a couple of spots, but they were deflated down to normal size. And the rest of my legs were almost down to normal, except for all the hanging, folds of skin. But they're plumped up again. Not as horrible as they were when I went in, but bad enough. And there's only so much I can do for it. Well, I've got some measures. I'm going to break even with you. I between that week-long bout with flu and the couple of infections I've had in my leg, and the various. I've spent a good portion of this year sick in one way or another, and my house. Have you ever watched the TV show Hoarders? My house literally looks like that right now. I'm ashamed of what I've let myself come to. I really am. I'm sitting next. No, I'm not even going to describe it. It's just horrible. But good news. Again, good news. The people at the Arbors put me in touch with hospice care. Hospice care is completely covered. Completely covered. Every dime of it covered by Medicaid. You better dang well believe I'm taking advantage of it. And the nurse, the first visit from the nurse, they're going to have a nurse visit me twice a week, every week. Just to check up and make sure that, my body hasn't bloated up in the bathroom or something, And, check me over, make sure I'm not bleeding from anywhere or, suddenly suffering from a stroke. This is what it's like to get old early. Beat the rush. I'm only 49 years old, and I've already got a nurse checking up on me, and they're going to, and she said she's going to go in. She's filled out. She came in. The main reason she was here is to fill out a bunch of paperwork. Sign here, 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 sign here. Do you have a do not resuscitate order? Hell no. I don't care if I waste away to an IV and a pair of glasses. Wake me up. Dang, that'd be a long wait. I could lie in a coma and waste away to normal. But she's going to come in. The nurse is going to visit me twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. Yay. I'm going to have company. I'm going to have to get out the biscuits and tea. I'm going to have to be a host instead of a trash burrowing hermit living in a broken down. I'm going to have to be a host instead of a trash dwelling hermit that ought to be on a horrifying TV show on cable network. I'm thinking a lot about cable network. Let's put it this way. Look, I'm sorry, y'all. I took my tablet with me. I thought, while I'm here while I'm laid up, I'll do all sorts of writing, and I'll do all sorts of typing, and I can't do any drawing because I'd have to bring my whole computer set. But I can at least tap to the stories, and I can update those. No. You see, I have this tablet. It comes with a case with a detachable keyboard. It's very nifty. It was one of those models that nobody likes anymore, I think. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not in the groove about digital devices. Just getting up to speed with my desktop is an epic achievement for me. So, I'm sitting here going, what the hell is IG? 5G, I don't know nothing about no 5G. I don't know nothing about buffing no babies. But I come out there well, first of all, I spent the first couple of weeks drugged out of my frickin' mind. I'm not kidding you, man. I mean, like I said, they tried. I can't even remember all the painkillers they tried on me. And they did the good old morphine. I'll say this much for morphine. I could still feel the pain. I just didn't care about it. But I'll tell you this much: morphine, the sensation of morphine going into your veins, it's awful. I can't understand. This is why I have more sympathy than ever before for people like Rush Limbaugh, who got addicted to medical painkillers, prescription painkillers. They're not fun, okay? They're not like they're not like cocaine or marijuana. Woo wee. Eat a Twinkie, have a fun time. No, they're not like acid or LSD or any other, same thing. But they're not like all these other, recreational drugs. They're not recreational. In fact, if they're fairly distressing. The sensation. The sensation of morphine starting to kick in. The best way I can describe it is like, imagine an ice cream headache, only warm. Imagine if you could get a hot soup headache. That's sort of like what it is. It's this sort of is a really unpleasant, warmth that spreads through your veins, and you're going, and man, I think they still use it because, unlike Tylenol or aspirin or any of these other, other low grade painkillers, the patient knows immediately that, one, they have been given something potent, and two, it's working rapidly. But but it's an unpleasant sensation. You're just and you feel just it's an awful feeling. Nobody gets hooked on morphine for the fun of it. Okay. They more or less get tricked into it. They start out as a patient for something. They start out on something else, and then somehow morphine enters into the picture through the back door. Can I come in and join the party? But or they're a patient, and morphine is the only thing that comes close to working. And they take more and more of it because the pain never really goes away. It just lingers there. Again. Best metaphor I can come up with is I don't know the difference between a simile, metaphor, and analogy, and I do not care. But the best description I can give for how pain feels under morphine, imagine you're in tremendous pain. Imagine somebody yelling in your ear. And then somebody gives you morphine, and suddenly they are down at the other end of a long, empty, echoey hall, still yelling, and you can still hear them, and it's still really unpleasant, but they're way over there, and they're not bothering as much. You don't care because they're not right up in your face. That's my best description. I've been told I have a gift for descriptives, but, judge for yourself. Anyway. Drugs. Hospital stays. Basically, I didn't get much done the first couple of weeks. I spent most of my time waking up, peeing, drinking more water, getting another IV attached, and falling back asleep. And and watching lots of cable TV. Man, I cannot begin to describe you how disorienting it is. You've got drugs lingering in your system, and you wake up and you're used to you're used to sleeping in a flat bed, and then you're sleeping in a hospital bed, and your head's partially raised up, and so that you're looking straight at the TV screen, which was still on when you fell asleep, and it is really weird because I would wake up. And I would be looking straight at the TV set up in the corner of the wall, and for a brief moment or two there, it felt like I was in like a space station or something, and the room was tilted at an angle. at a 45-degree angle, and that I was looking straight at the TV set, but the room was, the TV was straight, but the room was wrong. Very, very unusual wake-up call. Let me tell you that. It's breakfast. What the hell happened to the hospital? Wait. Anyway, didn't get nothing. And then they shipped me over to the Arbors, and my keyboard broke. And they have the on-screen touch. I have a touchpad on my tablet, and I can, I can't even two-finger type with a thing, because you dinka 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 dinka, one finger at a time. And in order to, it's not exactly a standard keyboard layout, so you have to push another button to flip the keyboard over to another setting so that you can type capitals. Then you have to flip it over to type in numbers, and then you have to flip it over to type in punctuation. And so no, I did not type any stories all this month. But my goal, and today I didn't do anything, didn't do diddly squat either, because I got home. I left it home. I basically was racing my own groceries home. See, because I've been gone a month and a half, everything in the fridge went, and I had to, I had to order up a bunch of other groceries. I ordered some of them online at Amazon, and some of them over the phone at the local Warren's IGA, which does delivery. Warren's IGA. I don't know their theme song. This is my bad attempt at a free promotional. But anyway. And they delivered it. Milk, I just ordered the perishables. Milk, fruit, a couple of different kinds of meat, fresh meat, because they don't feed you. Oh, they feed you at the Arbors. They feed you, but the problem is that they just serve you, 3 meals a day, planned out by a dietitian for elderly people. And their idea, and I was constantly begging them all. I probably drove those poor women crazy that were working the floor, because the nurses and orderlies and stuff were constantly in and out, because I was begging them for snacks. They have a little snack cart that they bring up from the kitchen, for between meal snacks. Their idea of a snack is a child-sized bag of goldfish crackers, child-sized cup of ice cream, a half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, half a bologna sandwich. You get the idea. And the lunches were, and the meals were, they're quite generally, not very filling. I got home, and the first thing I did was order delivery from Burger King. Burger King now delivers for free if you order $15 or more, which isn't hard to reach, trust me. But, I'm like, yay, they deliver. And I would just, pizza, no. I reached a point where on 4 different occasions I ordered food in while I was there. 3 times it was pizzas, 1 time it was, 2 times it was pizzas, 1 time it was a submarine sandwich, and the last time it was hamburgers. I'm different. I'm a little miffed at Smitty's Pizza, because I called them and I said, I want 2 cheeseburgers with everything on them. And the thing of it is, they're not taught to be. For them, everything on it is lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise. Apparently, because they didn't put any pickle, no ketchup, no mustard, no onion, no. You go online, you can see you apparently have to specifically ask for every single ingredient that normally goes on a cheeseburger. I'm just lucky they put the bun on. I'm a little unhappy, because I told them, everything on it, and I didn't, they have extra things like bacon and mushrooms that they can throw on there, and I was in a mood where I was hungry. I didn't care if they threw those on by mistake and charged me extra. I was willing to pay it. I was hungry, and they brought it to me, and I I ate them, darn it. I ate them. Blandest burger ever, man. You got. That's another thing. The people in those restaurants. One, everything is served with potatoes or rice in some form. And they don't put any. They'll put a little bit of gravy on there, but they don't put any salt in the potatoes or in the gravy. And because they're watching out for people's. They got elderly people in there. People are sick and elderly, and they're watching out for everybody's heart. And they can't just stop. They'll give you one of those little restaurant packets of salt. One, just sprinkle it on top. I need to cut back on salt anyway, I guess. Fortunately, I bought some seasoning. I got a canister of that no salt stuff. It's a blend of seasoning and spices that are supposed to replace it. And I also got some hot sauce type stuff to pep things up. A little drop of Tabasco in a bowl of tomato soup just makes the flavor pop. You put too much in it, ruins it. But just a little drop, bing, the flavor. Does the same for eggs too. The flavor just pops out. So I also bought my. I got a couple. I got some Frank's Red Hot sauce. I'm gonna try that with my cooking. Yeah, the thing of it is that they didn't. The rice was dry. They cooked it until it was dry. Literally, it wasn't moist. They didn't have any broth or anything. It was just cooked, unsalted, unseasoned, everything. It was just. I mean, is the closest I've ever seen to somebody taking rice, cooking it, and turning it raw again. And they didn't have anything you could put on top of it. The nurses, the orderlies and nurses, the nurses and such that worked on the floor, if they give you an extra ketchup packet, hoard it, Seriously, it's save the ketchup for the next meal, because you ain't going to get no more ketchup. You could ask for extra servings. But then they had to go call down to the kitchen, and the kitchen had to say, "Oh, let's see if we got any left." And then they had to, cart it all the way up to the floor, and So you're sitting there feeling fat and guilty, or at least I was. The older people don't give a rat's ass. You learn that quick when you live on us. They want something. They'll push that little button, and then they'll yell for it. Yeah. They'll keep you hopping. Or they keep everybody else hopping. They didn't keep me hopping. I was lying in bed. Huh. So there, haha. Anyway, it's been this my month and a half long absence. Okay. Roof still leaks. Floor still got holes. Trash is still piled up, and I've got a month's worth of grass growing in my yard. So, fortunately, the lawn care guys are going to be by Monday. Goes another $70 or $80 because they're going to charge extra for as tall as that grass is. It's been raining on and off all week. You can imagine how fast that dang grass has grown. I bet the backyard, you walk out and you can hear jungle drums. Right now, all I can do is shake the tin cup and get off my butt. Starting tomorrow, I'm just going to have to strap myself in and start typing and drawing and doing everything. I couldn't do anything today because I was I was having to wait for the people to deliver my groceries so I could haul them in and stick them in the fridge before they sat out and spoiled in the sun. And I had to, it's been a busy day. I had to wait for theirs, and I had to call people. But it's been a busy day. But tomorrow, start fresh, start new, and just knuckle down, do it. I had really hoped, apparently I had completely misunderstood the social worker lady, because I thought the reason I went along with staying as long as I did, they kept encouraging me to stay, to heal up as much as I could, to let my legs shrink down as much as I could, and they said, okay, it's completely covered, so you might as well. And I misunderstood. I also said, I was asking about, home help, and I apparently completely misunderstood the lady. I thought there was going to be somebody coming in while I was at the hospital, and hauling the trash away before I got there. That they'd come here, they'd come to the hospital, speak to me, fill out some forms, and then they'd go into my house and, haul the junk away, for starters, and then they'd see about doing civil help, repair type things. But I've got the nurse coming in. That's completely covered. All the medical, everything is covered in that regard. She's going to go see if I need any prescriptions or anything. In fact, anyway, she's also going to contact them, try and get in touch with more social service whatevers, and see if she can get, a couple of people to come in. Big burly dudes with a truck. That's all I'm asking for. To drag these bags of trash out, and this chair, and that broken down bed. I've got a new bed frame, and that old mattress, and that old washer. The washer's broke, and so am I. But I've had to wash my stuff in the tub. It's really, I repeat for the thousandth time. You ever seen the TV show Hoarders? Let's put it this way. I didn't think I went to the hospital, and I was watching, and I watched a couple of episodes of Hoarders, and I'm like, well, at least I'm not that bad. And I get out of the ambulance, they had to get, technical reasons, some technicality, they had to use an ambulance to ship me home, since they used an ambulance to ship me out, I guess. And they brought me to I walked up inside, and I looked around, and I was like, oh Lord, it's worse than I remember. It looks so bad that I sincerely wondered for a minute if somebody had been using my house to dump bags of trash. That's how bad it got. I had just gotten so acclimated to it that I didn't notice just really how bad it was. Unlike those people on the TV show, it had gotten so bad that they didn't notice how bad it was, and their family had to do an intervention to get them to realize it. In my case, the intervention was being in a nice, clean, empty hospital room and a hospice room for 6 weeks, and then coming home to this disaster. This place is one match away from a dumpster fire. The floors are filthy. The wall, it's just. I can't even begin. I'm ashamed, and I don't want to. This is why I'm never going to turn on a camera in my place, because I don't want people to know how my horrifying situation. You people are probably already ashamed enough of me. I don't need to be adding to the pile. But I'm getting help. Hopefully it's somebody who can lift shit. Because I would probably kill myself trying to do this all by myself. Literally, I'd probably get a blood clot rushing to my brain trying to. But anyway, hope is on the horizon. The problem is the horizon keeps moving away right now, So it's making me a little twitchy. So let's move on to another topic. I'm sure I've dwelled on this one long enough. Stupid Democrat tricks. I spent a lot of time. I saw President Trump's speech. I watched the whole thing. I listened to the whole thing. I was rather impressed. He hit him low. He hit him hard, and he didn't let up. He is not playing the softball games that other politicians have been doing, for the past 50 years. He hit them on the points. He said, and he listed off all the things that his administration had actually managed to get done in the past 4 years, and then compared it to the nothing that Biden has done in the past 47 years. 47 frickin' years that man, Biden, has been in power in Washington, D.C. He has been in power since I was 2 years old. Does that give you an idea? 10 years is too long for somebody to be in Washington, D.C. And he's been there 47. 5 decades is too much. And what's worse is that he managed, the best thing he does is nothing. Like every other Democrat. The happiest we are is when they're doing absolutely nothing sitting in office. Because when they accomplish their goals, everything goes down the toilet. Because I listed off, he signed off on all sorts of terrible deals for this country. Trump put on one hell of a show. I'll say that much too. He's following the. I know you've all heard of Alinsky's rules for radicals. Here's the final rule that most people don't understand. They complain we need to take the high road. We need to maintain a higher tone and not stoop to their. No, it's not stooping. It's not stooping. It's fighting on a level playing field. Because the one rule of Alinsky's rules for radicals is the only way to beat somebody who is using Alinsky's rules for radicals is to use Alinsky's rules for radicals against them. And one of the most fundamental rules of Alinsky's rules for radicals is you harangue the opposition on their values. You force them to try and live up to their standards, even when even when their standards are, too high to be realistic. Any deviation, no matter how slight. Sensible people recognize that perfect is the enemy of the good. And as one military man put it, the measurement is not perfect. The measurement for our military goals is not perfection. The measure is what the situation was like before. But you force. One of the Alinsky's rules for letters is that you don't do this to yourself. You do it to the opposition. You push them and you force and you squeeze them and you accuse them constantly of failing to live up to their standards. You call them hypocrites. You call them, if they are painstaking about being as honest as possible, you call them liars. If they so on. If they are egalitarian, you accuse them of being racist or sexist. You press them and force, you try to make them live up to your interpretation of their values. What Trump has been doing has been, holding up their own measuring stick against them, and they're looking really bad. which isn't hard. And he's making points that most of us sitting here at home have figured out for ourselves, but nobody in the news media or the mainstream is saying. Setting your neighborhood on fire is not peaceful protest. Duh. Nancy Pelosi, that land-going sea hag, she's out there telling Biden, about the proposed debates. He says, don't dignify his request for a debate. Refuse to go. So basically, her suggested approach for the Democrat presidential candidate is to pout, take his bull, and go home. And he used the same tactics that the Democrats have been using for years, bringing out people and telling their stories. This person lost their home because we shut down the oil fields, etc., etc., etc. Except in this case he was telling the truth. How do you know a Democrat is lying? Lips are moving. They couldn't make a truthful sound without eating a plate of beans first, You remember the Baghdad Bob, the guy that stood in front of the Americans are thousands of miles away from Baghdad. You could hear the rockets zooming into the buildings behind him. You had, honest-to-God, Democrat politicians standing in front of their own cities, Democrat politicians and Democrat newscasters standing in front of the camera saying, these protests have been by and large peaceful, and you can see flames in the background. These are people who think that reality is something that you can, change the channel to avoid. Baghdad Biden. Yeah. Biden's ads on TV all the time. In Obama's administration, I helped oversee the blah, 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 blah. You didn't do nothing. Even if Obama had accomplished half of what everybody claims he did, and he didn't. Nobody wants to give him credit for what he actually did, which was screw things up. Biden was the vice president. The vice president. The poster child for useless people. He didn't do nothing. He stood there cheesing like a monkey and fondling little girls in an inappropriate manner in front of television cameras. Looking like he'd been smacked in the back of the head with a brick. Hey. I've gone back and looked at pictures of him. He's got, when he smiles, he looks like he's just not there. I like chocolate milk. It's just, And this is a sad that you don't hear about this. Why does nobody, especially Biden, doesn't nobody likes how Trump is handling China. You think you don't like how Trump's handling China here? Consider how Biden would handle it. Biden's son owes his riches to China. Biden, he was no experience, no training, no nothing. Employed to some multi-million. He's got a $25 million contract with some Chinese company. Now this is how they get his. Biden is beholden to China because China is making his sons and daughters rich. In other moments of stupid, Rand Paul, or is it Paul Rand or Rand Paul? I can't remember. There's a Washington, D.C. politician. He was attacked by a mob of BLMers. BLM, SJW, just WTF, BBQ, I don't know. Rioters. A mob of over 100 people. He was leaving the White House. He was either, was it the White House? He was leaving the federal building, and a mob surrounded him, screaming, shouting, yelling death threats at him, and yelling the name, say your name, say your name. Some woman who got killed by a dynamic entry raid. What none of these low expectation mofos seem to be aware of is that Rand Paul helped draft a bill to try and ban dynamic entry raids. And they damn near mobbed him to death. The police pretty much saved Rand Paul and his wife. They saved their lives. Held the mob off until they got them to safety. Rand Paul. Yeah. God help us. They're idiots. They're the uneducated, swarming, teeming, they're the living embodiment of the unwashed masses. Look, here, dear black people, here's a tip. You want to be a social activist? Here's rule number 1. Chris Rock covered it. Chris Rock covered it in his skit, "How Not to Get Your Ass Beat by the Cops." Here's a subtext where, things to not do when you're a social activist. 1, do not act in any way that could be used by the Ku Klux Klan as a recruitment video. Man, these Black Lives Matters, these blimmers, these SJW blimmers, mother blimmers, have probably sent back race relations 50 years or more with their animal-like behavior. I'm picturing a skinhead and a neo-Nazi Klansman just standing there, not saying anything, just going, standing there like Vanna White, next to the screen. While these ethnic minorities are out there in the streets burning down their own neighborhoods. And every time this happens, I would, I am, one of these days I'm going to have a heart attack and die. You know why I'll have a heart attack and die? Because that'll be the day that these black social activists pick a poster child who is not a crackhead, gangbanger, drug dealer, or murderer. Trayvon Martin, remember Trayvon? Poor little Trayvon in his hoodie. Here, let me do the quick summarization for you. Poor little Trayvon Martin was out in the dead of the frickin' night, running around in the back alleys, in between houses, in some little urban, suburban neighborhood, ducking behind fences. A man who was driving past, who happened to belong to the local neighborhood watch, pulled over to see what the hell was going on. Had his flashlight and his phone in his hand. Because he felt like a responsible citizen. And some faceless nobody in a hoodlum, some hoodlum in a hoodie running around in the back alleys behind his neighbors' houses was kind of a bad thing. So he goes out there to see what it is. The kid jumps him, grabs him by the throat, and proceeds to bash his head against the concrete of the curb. Knocks him down. Bang, 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 bang. Like he's trying to open a beer bottle on the curb of the sidewalk. And so the guy, fearing for his life, drops his phone and flashlight, pulls out his gun, and shoots the guy trying to crack his skull open. Trayvon, and guess what? Trayvon Martin had a rap sheet, long as your arm, and he had been on social media, flashing gangster signs, trying to look a bad mofo. Oh yeah, he was a regular Sunday school attendee. And this poor man, who was just trying to be a good neighbor and ended up having to fight for his life, was excoriated by the press and by every by every ethnic hoodlum from here to LA as a racist. And it was amazing, the man was a Mexican American. And as time went by, he's a Mexican American. It was amazing how quickly he became white when they thought they could whip up a race baiting game out of it. The George, whatever his face was, the guy who got his neck knelt on, that started this latest round that has been going on for 70 days in Portland alone. When the cops got him, they did an autopsy on him. He had ecstasy, he had marijuana, he had 2 or 3 other drugs running through his veins. He wasn't out selling Girl Scout cookies. Yeah, the cops went too far. They pinned him down. They knelt on his neck. The police, excessive force. The man died. Had a heart attack and died. It might have had something to do with the fact that he was pumping enough drugs and junk through his system to kill a rhino. But the cops, rightfully, they lost their badges, they lost their jobs, they went to jail, they're on trial for murder. The system worked. All the black community and a good portion of the white community too, the young and the stupid, rioted anyway. I'll repeat this. I've said this over and over again. This is my quote about the whole mess. They're not looking for justice. They're looking for an excuse. They saw the LA riots on TV as a kid and thought, "Damn, I missed out on all the fun. I could have got myself a free frickin' TV set." That's why for the past 20, 30 years, anytime there's a crisis, again, the black the black and minority and ethnic communities, they get up and they start behaving in a way that makes every every Aryan youth go, well, I picked the right side, looks like. Don't do that. You're people, not animals. And just because you have a black skin does not give you special privilege to act like one. And lately, this one guy, what was this guy's name? He's alive, but he's paralyzed from the waist down for the rest of his life because, they shot him in the back 7 times. No, they make it sound like they were chasing him down an alley. Oh no, don't shoot this poor nigga. Boom, 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 boom. No. I saw footage of what happened. Somebody was standing across the street filming. It cuts both ways, kiddies. You can film your Rodney King videos all you want, and it's not going to do you any good because everybody else can look at the rest of the video. A half dozen cops surrounding the guy, pointing. The cops, there's been some sort of domestic. So he comes there. The cops come in, and he's kicking up a fuss. They reach a point where they draw their guns on him. And what does he do? Now here's a hint from Chris Rock. If they pull the guns on you, do what they say. But no, he just what I figured. He figured, they wouldn't dare shoot a black man now. That's what he was thinking, because he sauntered. He practically sauntered when he was over to his car, opened the door, and dove in. He was going for a knife, by the way. There was a knife in the front seat. Dumbass. You at least respect him for going for a gun, but no, he was going for a knife. He was going to take on 4 or 5 cops with loaded pistols pointed at him with a knife. And they did what they had to do. They shot him and stopped him before he killed somebody. And they out in the street, everybody out in the street. Suddenly, they're all saying, it doesn't matter whether it's Trayvon Martin or George what's his face or Brian what the fuck I stand. They all get the same name. You'll notice the joke is they all get the same name. Whenever a black criminal, a black or Mexican, a violent thug, eats the consequences of his actions, he gets the same name. His family will be on TV. They change his name to Didn't Do Nothing. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do nothing. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. He went to Sunday school when he was a little boy. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my angel baby. Guy got white rings around one nostril and has plugged half of his best friend with bullets. Give me a break. I'm sick of this. If that son of a bitch, and there is no other word for it, because whatever raised him was not a mama. A mama would not raise something that stupid, that lawless, and that stupid. No, it's just that son of a bitch. If that son of a bitch had been white, it wouldn't have made it would it would have been a 5-minute scandal, and everybody would have forgotten it by the next week. But because here's some black thug with his pants halfway around down his ass, strutting and representing at the cops, and tried to ignored them, ran for his car and went for a weapon. Because he got because he ate some lead. The entire city goes bug nuts. They don't give a crap. They had that one girl standing out there, go ahead and loot, and people holding up a sign, they stole our future, let's loot theirs, They're looking for an excuse to steal. Whatever they steal, I don't care if they steal. This black, young, dumb black girl standing there waving a sign, and she's yelling through a megaphone. I don't care if they steal. I don't care what they steal. They making sure that baby's fed. And if they steal and stuff, it's reparations. Reparations for slavery. Yeah, I'm sure their children will love that hearty bowl of, widescreen TV soup and $100 sneaker sandwiches. They weren't out there robbing groceries. They were out there robbing high-end stores, downtown. And then setting them on fire for good measure. Oh. Okay. How do I feel about Justice Roberts refusing to cancel DACA? DACA. I'm not sure who Roberts is, and I don't know what DACA is, so I can't comment. Redneck is so ignorant of politics he can't tell us what DACA is. Bite me. The whole point of this country is that you didn't have to be an expert on everything to be an expert on something. You didn't have to be an expert on anything to have a legitimate thing, to have a legitimate thing to say about what you could see with your own eyes. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about DACA, I don't know who Justice Roberts is, and I don't know what the political football is in that game. But that doesn't make me ignorant or stupid about what else is going on in the political arena. The whole point of how this country was designed was so that the people could run it. That they didn't need some anointed prince to sit on a throne and dictate how it was done because the peasants were too ignorant. Unfortunately, we've got a great number of generations who are determined to make themselves as ignorant as they possibly can. I wouldn't trust these Black Lives Matter. I wouldn't trust these people out in the streets to run a lemonade stand. No, I'm not saying you're mocking me. I'm just saying, I don't know who Bush is. I know who Bush is, but I don't know who Roberts is, and I don't know what DACA is. So I took a left turn on that one and made the side point that this is a topic I don't know nothing about, so I'm not really going to say nothing about it. Oh, DACA is Dreamers, where they're trying to. I don't know too much about the Dreamers thing. It's just bullshit where they're trying to grease the skids to get illegal immigrants in the front door again. Is that one? Is it that game? Or what exactly is it? It's illegal, and he's not going to stop it. Well, that should be grounds for him being debarred. He should be thrown off the bench. If you openly admit that you're not going to, that you're if you admit, if you're a judge, and you admit that you're not going to enforce the law, they should throw you out the front door so hard you bounce twice before you stop. Most of these so-called complicated issues come down to very simple moral principles. I love these idiots that go around and say, you can't simplify everything. No. Things just aren't that simple. No. They are simple. Right and wrong are incredibly simple. The problem is that you've mistaken, you've collated simple with easy. Some of the hardest things to do in the world, like the right thing, are also are also the most simple. The reason they get complicated is because people don't want to do the right thing. And as Winston Churchill said, we can count on our American allies to do the right thing once they have exhausted all other options. That pretty much describes human nature. News about the wall. Okay, Bush has been Trump. I keep saying Bush. Trump, in his speech, they have got so far. They've got 300 miles. They got the 300th mile. They're getting 10 miles a day up at this point. 300 miles of the wall on the Mexican border is up already. 300 miles. Now, the Mexican-American border is 1,954 miles. Just 50 miles, less than 50 miles under 2,000 miles. 300 miles out of 2,000 doesn't sound like a lot. But it's safe to bet that, let's see, the total length of the continental border is 3,145 kilometers, or just under 2,000 miles. From the Gulf of Mexico, it follows the course of the Rio Grande, Rio Bravo del Norte, if you're Mexican, to the border crossing at Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, and El Paso, Texas. Okay, so I figured they put the 300-mile stretch up in the area. I figure they've got three. I figure they put the first 300 miles in the area where most of the illegal immigrants were coming through. It's not like they can cross it any place. First of all, there's a river in the way, and second of all, not all the territory is safe to cross. So there are certain cross points. In this case, Chihuahua, El Paso, Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, and El Paso, Texas. So right in that area. I figured that was where they started the wall. So even figuring that they put the whole length, if they put a wall all the way across, 2,000 miles, 10 miles a day, it'll be another year, and the southern border will be completely walled. Not bad. And they've get this. You don't hear this in the news. They have deported 500,000 illegal immigrants. Just since they started this whole thing. 500,000. You ask average Democrat, and they say, "Oh, we could never do that. We could never manage it. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the infrastructure. We can't. And they did it. Trump did it. So, or rather, the Trump administration did it. The wall won't do any good, If they really believe that, they just shut up. If they really did that, they just shut up and let Trump build it, and then take credit when it failed. 300 miles, man. That's a long walk. They'll just walk around it. Well, it'll be a dang long walk now, won't it? Yeah, what's his name? Several famous black people have said you can stop a lot of racism by not talking about it. Yeah, that was what's his name? That dude with a mellow voice. What's his name? He was in the Batman movies. Black dude. What was it? What was his name? I can't remember. I'm getting old and senile. Morgan Freeman. What was the name of the guy who voiced Darth Vader? Okay, Morgan Freeman. James Earl Jones. Morgan Freeman. James Earl Jones. There was one guy that used to do In a World kind of announcements for, who did those voiceovers for movies and TV ads and stuff. What was his name? I can't remember it. There's certain people who just make a living just mellifluous voices, impressive voices. Don LaFontaine. Don the Voice LaFontaine. In a world where peanut butter and jelly have never come together. That kind of thing, I've been told I've got a voice that'd be really good for radio, and I'm like, I don't know. I listen to my own voice and I don't like it. Of course, nobody listens to their own voice. It makes you wonder what Morgan Freeman hears when he plays back his own voice. Morgan Freeman, James Earl Jones, Rod Serling, and Don LaFontaine. Don LaFontaine died a while ago. Sad. His son has taken over the job. He's not quite as good as Don LaFontaine, but he's pretty good. Yeah. Of course, it's obvious to anyone who's reasonable that the 99.9% of all the race issues is because somebody's trying to whip up a froth. Like like a spoiled child, throwing a tantrum to get what they want. I've dwelt on this topic multiple times too. That think about it. The generation that's entering and or graduating from college now, was in the 90s and the noughts, the first big generation to be put into daycare. You take a bunch of children in their most crucial formative years, rip them away from their mothers in a time where they urgently, desperately need to be close to them, and put them in a classroom or a nursery room with one adult, for every 15 kids. That barely works with teenagers. That barely works with adults. But you take one one overworked, undertrained caretaker who has to take care of 15 little rugrats wipe the noses, bandage the skinned knees, pass out the cookies, change the Pampers pull-ups, and all that crap. They're not going to have any time for really nurturing the child, and so the child is going to be in great distress. And in those circumstances, going mommy, 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 mommy won't get any attention. So what do they? They learn this. They're basically trained to it. That the only way that they can get the attention they desperately need at that age from an adult figure, from a caring adult figure, is to throw a tantrum. And you have to figure that lesson stuck with them their entire lives, because it was proven to them over and over again at the most formative years of their lives. What do you see? The kids that were basically dumped off by mommy so that mommy could go chase whatever are the ones that grow up and they're in college. They're out there, they're in their 20s, in their mid-20s, closing in on their 30s, out in the streets. Throwing tantrums and setting things on fire, knocking things over, screaming and yelling because they don't get what they want. And most of them have figured out if they throw a big enough tantrum, they can steal from the cookie jar and get away with it. Another lesson they've adopted for their entire lives. And it is terrifying that the whole chain reaction goes all the way back to the 60s. Not because of the hippies or of the boomers, but track with me here. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again because I like talking about it, because this involves a great deal of thought. Now consider this: round about the 60s, around 1964, 1965 to 1970. That's when two major things happened. Two major economic things, not moral or ethical or political or emotional, intellectual, but financial. One of the moral issues that people, especially the Christian community, the conservative Christian community, overlooks, disparages, and downplays, is the economic impact on society. They want to talk about enough people. There wasn't enough prayer in schools. There wasn't enough people going to Sunday school, or we let too much rock and roll play on the radio. That kind of thing. Everybody's got their axe to grind, religious, political, or otherwise. But let's talk about economics, because economics is a moral and ethical issue. It's as fundamental as thou shalt not steal. Now, I've harped on this topic before, but okay, right about 1965 is when Richard Nixon's administration and Congress took us off the gold standard and put us on fiat currency. Now, follow with me closely here, because I don't want you, herring off chasing red herrings. Follow me with the topic. First, Nixon hammered home favored trade status with China, because you had American companies that desperately wanted to get at that, that 1 billion people market now. Umpty million Chinese. That's a lot of chop suey. So every company on the planet wanted to sell them. And Nixon pandered to them by giving China most favored trade status, ignoring the fact that it was a communist tyranny. It was a communist dictatorship, and it still is. They're just very, they've learned to, keep the bigger atrocities away from Main Street where the cameras are. Now, what this did, first of all, as I've told you before, uh, going on fiat currency is basically it basically boils down to the banks wanting to print out more receipts than they actually have money, because they can spend the receipts the same as if they were actual money. And if we're talking money, we're talking about gold, gold or silver or any other commodity, but usually gold and silver. And having to limit themselves to what they actually, the actual amount of gold they had in the bank was a drag. So, they pulled the frack and fee scam, fractional reserve and fiat currency scam, all over again, on us, on the United States, on we the people. And immediately, the first thing that happened, overnight, the value of the dollar dropped by half. More, in fact. Back when we went from printing $20 for every ounce of gold to printing $50 for every ounce of gold. Surprise! The value of the dollar dropped by half, and it stuck there from about World War I to about the beginning of the Vietnam War. But the government wanted to spend lots and lots and lots and lots of money on the Vietnam War, so they went with fiat currency so that they could make money out of thin air. But they weren't making money out of thin air. They were borrowing money from the future. That's the usual rationalization. Oh, we'll get so rich that we'll make all that wealth back. And you never do. So they started What happened? The value of the dollar dropped precipitously. And you could measure it by how much gold was worth. Gold went from being $50 an ounce to $200 in the space of a couple of years. The gold didn't get more valuable. The paper money got less valuable. And suddenly, people who could get by with one member of the family, the father, going out and being the breadwinner while the wife stayed home and raised the kids, suddenly couldn't do that anymore. Everything suddenly became tremendously expensive. And corporations, which could see which way the wind were blowing, started hauling ass over to China to set up a shop over there. So, great. The average paycheck fell through the floor, and there weren't that many paychecks anymore because all of our business went to China. It backfired on us. We didn't get billions and billions of Chinese customers. Well, yeah, we did, but they got us, buying their stuff rather than them buying our stuff. The flow was all one way. And don't you think the Chinese, tyrants that were running, Red China, didn't know it? I guarantee you they were planning accordingly. So basically, you start out the 70s, everything is going up in price, including the cost of education, the cost of college. You hear people from my father's generation bragging about how, I worked my way through college. Yeah, because one job was enough to pay for it. Well, now you got college has the college tuition has increased by about 500%, while the value of the dollar has fallen through the floor. The dollar in 1970 is now worth a dime today. With education, you have to throw in some other things like them overselling the product. When everybody has a bachelor's degree, nobody does, because it's that becomes the new bottom rung. And they were out there lowering standards and giving out free government loans to get as many people, and especially minorities, for political reasons, to get the schools packed out with minorities. And you had a bunch of people that weren't going to finish their education and weren't going to pay back their loans. And those that did graduate graduated with a diploma that wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. Yippee yippee yay yay yippee yay yay. Anyway, they can, the parents suddenly household mom has to go to work too to help pay the bills, even though their standard of living has not changed and in fact backslid. So now you have parents. Both parents are working. So who raises the kids? They start relying on extracurricular activities, after-school activities. They rely on the public school system to raise their kids. They rely on the gym coach and the football coach and the soccer coach and the baseball coach and the cheerleading coach and the chess club coach or whatever to raise their kids. They start relying on the charitable summer camp to raise their kids, and the Sunday school teachers and the Bible summer camp to raise their kids. They relied on the television to raise their kids. They started having latchkey kids that were coming home, no parent at home for hours and hours on end while they were at work, and they were basically having to raise themselves with nothing but them and the TV remote. And so we went to our social betters for a solution. They said daycare centers. And daycare centers and social programs, and it didn't solve the problem. Is that what the kids needed was their parents. They come along the 90s, and you got the 90s to the noughties to the 2020s. We've got an entire generation of maybe two generations already of kids who did worse than raise themselves because they were handed off to people who were either apathetic or had an axe to grind. And they're coming out the other end of the school, can't spell their own names, but they know how to put a condom on. And what was the first lesson they learned in school? That mom and dad are old-fashioned. They don't know. They haven't learned. They haven't been educated. Science has progressed since they were children. They believe these old-fashioned things like family and patriotism and God. You don't need to believe that. You need to come up with your own conclusions. They're telling this to kids as young as 6. Come to your own conclusions. And you don't think that is? Look, that was the whole point of the Scopes Monkey trials, because the socialist activists wanted to get atheism through the front door of the public schools. They had talked our country into setting up a public schooling system that was designed to produce, rubber-stamped, substandard education. And you don't think that is? Look it up. Prussian school system. Prussian model school system. That was their goal. Once they had that in, they had to get atheism through the front door. Why? Because the first lesson, you come in there and the first thing they teach you is evolution, which is, I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, but it's mutually exclusive with what, any major religion teaches, specifically the Christian Bible. What the Bible has to say about the origins of man and the origins of sin and death and everything else, they're all tied into the beginning. You can't have the Bible without, you chop out Genesis, and label it a fairy tale. Jesus becomes nothing but a crazy man who went around, preaching fables as if they were real. The whole thing comes apart, and that's what they wanted. And more importantly, they wanted to, the purpose of kindergarten. Get this, the guy that invented kindergarten openly stated that the purpose was to remove children from the influence of their parents as soon as possible. You sit down with your parents pick out a Bible and say, you ask them, where did man come? Where did I come from? And they open up the Bible to the book of Genesis. You sit down with a teacher 6 to 8 hours a day, and you ask them, where did I come from? And they open up a book, a textbook, and show you a picture of a monkey. Pop goes the child's respect for his parents. That was the intent. No debate is allowed on the matter either. You're not allowed to sit down. How did they handle it when the Answers in Genesis people? These are people. The people in the organization Answers in Genesis are lettered scientists, people with doctorates and degrees in geology, astronomy, physics. They're not some ignorant rednecks from out of the hills in West Virginia. They're a bunch of educated, lettered scientists with field research and theses and doctorate. They got the full arsenal under their belts. The people at Answers in Genesis said, at any time, just let us set up a debate. Can we please at least set up a debate with one of your scholars? And who do they send? Bill Nye the Science Guy. I saw some of that debate. Let me put it this way: the Answers in Genesis scientists, he had the science and the facts on his side, but they weren't debating the science and the facts. What they were debating was who was the better entertainer. And I hate to say it, but I've watched that particular scientist listen to some of his lectures, and even as riveting as the topic is, when he discusses how the strata of rock can form, for instance, and some of the basic theories they have, and some of the scientific models they have, and some of the fossils they have. He is dull. He is boring. He's like that ghost teacher in Harry Potter, who he's lecturing the most interesting thing in the interesting class in the school, and he bores him he puts him to sleep. And here's this guy. He's going up against not another scientist, but a children's entertainer. Yes, Bill Nye the Science Guy. He has I forget what his degree in is. Not a doctorate. He's got like a bachelor's degree in engineering, I think. Not even that. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. But he is not a scientist. Dolph Lundgren, the guy that played He-Man, is more of a scientist than he is. Dolph Lundgren has 2 doctorates. Bill Nye the Science Guy has none. But Bill Nye the Science Guy is the television performer that you had an audience of 20-somethings out there that grew up on Bill Nye the Science Guy. This was like holding a debate between your high school social studies teacher and Captain Kangaroo for a room full of 12-year-olds. Who did everybody think won? Oh, we think Bill Nye the Science Guy. He won the debate. What a surprise! Did he give you a balloon and a lollipop afterwards? Oh man, the kindergarten thing. Oh man, the whole school system. The guys that were pushing for public education were actually going around to cocktail parties and reassuring high-ranking, wealthy and the rich and powerful. Don't worry, the common classes will not be too educated. That was their sale. That the public school system wouldn't educate people too much. Don't you feel better? Pardon. So basically, for the past 50 years, we've had classroom after classroom after graduating class after graduating class of kids that were basically pushed into raising themselves, if at all, and whose major influences in their life were politically motivated liberals, leftists, who have since the 60s come to dominate the entertainment and educational systems in our country. What a surprise that the streets are filled with schmuckwits. This is nothing new. This is nothing I haven't thumped on 1,000 times before. It gets. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of tired of living in a country with it. So it's very nice to hear from the president that he's pushing for voucher schools and charter schools, pushing for more of them to be open, and that his plan is that if he gets reelected, that's one of the things he's going to do. He's already opened up bunches of them, and he's going to push for a bunch more. That kind of thing. I think he's missing a grand opportunity right now to switch us from being publicly schooled to being with a more homeschool-based system. Look, we've had the system, and COVID virus comes through, everybody has to go home, and some schools start opening up, and setting up cameras so they can teach kids over the internet at home. If they took the money they wasted on these festering germ farms they call public school buildings, fire, shut down the building, sell off the building, fire about 90% of the staff, and start schooling all these kids from home, they could afford to pay for internet access and functional laptops for every student with the money they saved. The education quality would be better because the parents would be right there and they'd be able to participate where necessary. And and what a surprise! The teachers' unions are throwing a fit and telling parents, "Please don't loom over here. Don't listen in to our classes. We don't need that. It's distracting. Yeah. Having the real authority in these children's lives breathing down your neck is real distracting, I'm sure. And don't give me, if you've got a parent or something, I have an aunt that's been a teacher her whole life. She's a saint. Kiss my butt, okay? I don't care if she's been sainted along with Mother Teresa. She's part of a system that's broken. So she bears, so no matter how saintly a teacher she was, she bears a portion of the responsibility for the problem. Tough lumps, choke them down. And what bugs me the hell about Trump's pushing so hard to get these kids back in school with this COVID virus running around, and I'm like, damn, just the school system's functionally broken all the way down. It's turtles all the way down, as the saying goes, and just take the opportunity to push alternatives. I mean, there are private organizations, there are private homeschooling schools, internet and online schools that have been advertising all the hell. Like I counted like 4 or 5 of them while I was sitting there watching TV in the hospital. That they're jumping on this with both feet. Frankly, I'm sorry. It's obvious. I mean, it's demonstrated. We've already had one from the 80s and 90s kids. A huge chunk of them, millions of them, were homeschooled. And by and large, they've been put through. They were put through the grinder. They not only tested out better, all the SATs and PSATs and all the other alphabet soup tests standardized tests they give out. Those kids, mop the floor with public school kids and private school ones. The homeschooled kids mop the floor. With the quote unquote competition. And not only that, but they're doing better psychologically as well. They're happier, they're healthy. This is from psychiatric and psychological evaluations of, thousands of kids. They're coming out. They're happier, they're healthier, they're better balanced emotionally. They're better at dealing with people from from a wider range of age groups. And they're just better socialized. School is not and people are coming out there. There are many children that are going hungry because the public schools are closed. The schools aren't there to give out free lunches. That's not their purpose. They're supposed to be to educate the populace. It's nice of them to admit that the school is there for a social engineering experiment. But I don't like the fact that they're gulling people into your children will starve in the middle of the day if you don't have them in our school system. Whatever you're going to like people haven't been feeding their own children for tens of thousands of years before the public school system was invented. As one man used to put, as one libertarian used to put it, if the government came out and insisted that all newborns to 2-year-olds had to go to classes to learn to walk, government-run classes to learn to walk, within a generation, people would be convinced that you could not learn to walk without going to a government school. Ain't that the sad, tragic truth? Have I ever gotten a chance to watch Brand New Animal? No, actually I didn't. Probably should have just sat down and just plugged my tablet in and just set it up and watched it. Instead, I sat there flipping through 57 cable channels. Half a dozen of them were for, it's just everybody doing the same thing. It's really sad. Half of them were like sports channels. Sports channel, news channel. They really got the cheap budget cable package for both the hospital and the hospice. I'm like, if this is cable TV, I'm not gonna bother. Why would I bother with it? I need to. That's another thing I need to do. I need to call my internet service provider and point out. I'm paying about close to $90 a month for my internet. You have a package where somebody gets internet and cable TV for the same price. Do you think you could cut a brother a break? I would okay, either you reduce my internet bill proportionally, or I start looking around for a new internet service provider. But I've only seen bits and I've only seen clips of Brand New Animal. Read the synopsis, that kind of thing. I've got a list of anime and manga shows that I want to sit down and watch, but I want to watch this sometime. The thing of it is that all anime seems to have the same. It's great that that they're adopting the long story form. That the whole thing is a big story arc, but it takes for most of them, nearly all of them, and especially with the Western shows too, that are starting to do this. They're moving away from the episodic model and more into the long story form. and it takes them for frickin' ever for various points in the story to develop. Most of these long, drawn out, seasons long plots could be crammed down into like 2 or 3 episodes, most, tops. You see, you got to strike a balance. You got to strike a balance. There's very few shows that manage to do that. You got to strike a balance between making each individual episode stand on its own and tying it all together into one big story. But most of the tilt is the other way. It's individual episodes. Man, Dragon Ball Z. Good night. I remember that one. I remember when it was only on TV. I could only, I'm talking old school TV, with the tinfoil antennas. And I would wait literally, I would get up, early in the morning, just to turn that on and see what the next episode of Dragon Ball. Had they finally stopped growling at each other? No, and I remember one. It was like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes of Goku standing there, yelling at Vegeta, and Vegeta, right back at him, and nothing happening. Literally a whole episode wasted. That was because the anime had gotten ahead of the manga, but it was still pathetic. It was the worst hack job I'd ever seen. But many say, I love My Hero Academia, but they stretch out what should be a 1 episode's story arc into 3 or 4 episodes, and it's really, it's really, come on. We really do not have to watch. We do not have to watch the literal mechanisms in Midoriya Izuku's head as he figures out this new angle of some villain's quirk for 5 frickin' minutes. So I'm like, I'm a little, as much as I want to watch some of these things, like Dr. Stone and The Rising of the Shield Hero and all these other, am I going to be stuck watching episode after episode, waiting for something to happen? I watched the entire, regular Netflix type shows aren't doing much better. I mean, I watched The Boys, that yet another deconstruction of superheroes, and some of it, but I mean, the entire season, and I'm like fast forwarding through the. If people start fast forwarding through your TV show, you did it wrong. Okay. Yeah, just fast forwarding through all the blah 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 to get to the the plot beats, And same story with same problem with online games. MMORPGs like World of Warcraft, and all its sister competitors like WildStar. God may it rest in peace. Look, again and again and again, you hear about it. People will play through. They'll get an expansion. People will play through it once. They'll play through it, and they'll go through all the details, and they'll follow the whole story once, and then the next time through, they're taking shortcuts. And they're looking at, how do I get through this? There are entire videos, series on YouTube about, how to level up your character in World of Warcraft from 0 to 120 in as few days as possible. If people are trying to get, if people are skipping your content and trying to fast forward through it as fast as possible, you're doing something wrong. And this is why World of Warcraft, every time they get out a new expansion, they have a big surge in people signing up for memberships, and then it slowly tapers back off again. And it doesn't get quite as high the next time. Because the story is, a story can be read over and over again, but it's not, after a while, the book eventually sits up on the shelf because you've read it so many times. And you need something new. There's a fundamental flaw in how online massively multiplayer role-playing games are designed, and I'm yet to see anybody come up with a workaround. No, I'm yet to see somebody come up with a new game design that addresses the problem. I think one of the fundamental, one of the more irritating issues about the game, about any kind of online role-playing game, is that, for all the role-playing you do, the world doesn't really change. The villains and heroes and bystanders all respawn and do the exact same thing over and over again. It's the amusement park model of a world, and it just doesn't work. Not nearly as good as it could. This is why Minecraft has gone so berserk, is because when you change something, it changes. And it stays changed. And it's still playable. They're going to have to radically change how an RPG, an online RPG works, because for one thing, there's almost little to no role playing in these so-called role playing games. It's not like the pencil and they're never going to have the flexibility that a pencil and paper role playing game has. It's just not possible. I don't think. They're going to it's going to take a revolutionary breakthrough in game design and in gaming concepts for them to get past that. They're going to have to find a way to design a setting, a world that changes dynamically. And lets players, and gives, we're talking sandbox. Sandbox games like Minecraft and games that have sandbox-like features are the ones that are going gangbusters right now in the gaming market. Minecraft has become an institution, and it did almost overnight. For the reasons I said. Now, if they could figure out some way to make a cross between World of Warcraft and Minecraft, and that's going to take an epic step upward in computer programming and game design. If they make a World of Warcraft that is an actually changing, dynamic sandbox world, it's going to that is going to mop the floor, because it's going to be radically different from anything that came before, just like World of Warcraft was, just like Minecraft was. But everybody's trying to play the same game, as it were. They're trying to remake World of Warcraft, reinvent the wheel, and big mistake right there. More and more as they go along, these games, the writers, the game designers are flying up their own rear ends. They're forgetting they're making a game, and that a game has to be dynamic, and that there has to be change. There has to be a possibility for the outcome to be different. And instead of making a game, they're making a partially interactive story. They're trying to write they're trying to write Lord of the Rings and use pixels to do it. And everybody, and all the players are just supposed to play their part, and be on their mark and read their lines of their script, and then bow off the stage for the next actor to come through. The amusement park model of a world, You go from one attraction to another, until you get all the way around the park, and you leave and throw up your popcorn and cotton candy in the parking lot. Drank too much soda. Drank too much everything. It's all trivial. It's all trivial. It's all idle pastimes and entertainment. But my, don't we get wound up in it. It's understandable to some point. I forget that how much they said, but World of Warcraft, I think the economy in World of Warcraft is bigger than several countries. Then and we're talking in real dollar terms. What people are willing to pay. They measure it by what people are willing to pay for not only access, but for certain features and content in the games. Various gear, etc. Contraband or not, it's still a part of the game's economy. When a game reaches a point, this is what was struck me. Whoever made that movie Ready Player One was paying attention, because one of the things they had was that people would work their debt off to some evil corporation by basically becoming gold farmers in the big online game Oasis that was the central theme of the movie. And it's perfectly feasible. Basically, they would be imprisoned in they were basically gamer farms where they were they would spend every waking moment in their little booth playing the game and harvesting coins for the corporation. And look at what World of Warcraft. One of the big things is that they've you got people in like China and I forget where all else that their entire roomfuls of little Chinese kids playing this game, harvesting coins and artifacts and what all else for the company, and the company sells them online, black market, and it's a thriving business. Hell of a thing. You can, so it does make some sense. I mean, multi-million-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry now. So gaming is serious business, literally. But at the same time, it's so trivial. Vaporware, unsubstantial. It's a disturbing indicator that so many millions of people are investing millions and millions and millions and even billions in selling make-believe to one another. Back in the 50s, they dreamed everybody would become, if they pushed enough science and math courses, that everybody would grow up to be, scientists and engineers and inventors and astronauts and whatnot. That we'd build stuff. Can you imagine how many man-hours have gone into building buildings and models and facsimiles of real-life structures in Minecraft servers? All ones and zeros, all vaporware, all imaginary. It would just disappear into nothing. If somebody tripped over the wrong plug. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity. The story of everything in life, really. Anything that isn't focused on the hereafter and on the Almighty, it's only a passing thing. Important to a certain degree, because every meal you have, every night of rest you get when you sleep, that's a passing thing too, but kind of important. But not nearly as important in the way that we've assessed on it. But here we are, trying to milk the imaginary cow. Small wonder somebody can hand us a handful of paper and convince us that it's real wealth. Okay, I have no idea how. Okay, I've been on here 2 hours. 2 hours. And it is after midnight. So I think that's more than enough. I did this just to blow the whistle and let everybody know, hey, I'm still alive. I'm back online, and I'm gonna try and put my nose to the grindstone and get some more comics out there for y'all to read. Get some more stories out there for y'all to read. More content. More content. More content. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to try and convince myself to go and lie in on my stank old bed get some rest. After a month of sleeping on a nice Posturepedic type hospital mattress with an adjustable bed frame and stuff, it's going to be interesting to get used to. I'm sleeping on my old bed again. And then I'm going to see if I can get my new bed, get this crap out of my living room so I can set up my new bed. Hope the mattress is thick enough. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. I don't know if I'll see you again tomorrow night. All depends. You all take care of yourselves, all right? I'll see you later. Good night.